is William K. Murtaugh, Murt Witness 1, and today we discuss the extradition of Field McConnell. Now, Monday afternoon at about 4:30 Central Time, a decision was handed down regarding the request by the state of Florida to have an extension for the extradition of Field McConnell. The state of Wisconsin, acting on the behalf of the state of Florida, stated that there was a request being made for an extension on the time needed for a decision to be made on the extradition of Field McConnell to the state of Florida. Field McConnell objected, stated why. The judge summarily rejected McConnell's argument, informed Mr. McConnell that he was required, under the laws of the state of Wisconsin and the United States, to extradite Field McConnell to the state of Florida based on the evidence that has been provided thus far. So the extension has been granted for the state of Florida to do what they need to do to get Field McConnell extradited to Florida. And this also gives Field McConnell time to mount some kind of argument as to why he shouldn't be going to the state of Florida. Now, Field McConnell has retained E-Clause LLC, which is registered out of the state of Florida, to argue his case. And Kurt Pendergrass, who is a representative of that firm, is representing Field McConnell. There's just a slight problem. Kirk Pendergrass is not a lawyer. Kirk Pendergrass is not an attorney. Kirk Pendergrass is not an officer of the court. All E-Clause is, and all E-Clause does, is have some kind of learning site on Facebook and elsewhere that promotes gibberish. And if anybody follows the advice of Kirk Pendergrass on his blog and on his social media site, they're going to lose. It's that simple. He's giving extremely bad advice, and anybody that listens to that advice is in danger of making whatever situation they're in that much worse. And it could result in jail time, loss of children, loss of property, life-altering losses, because they chose to go down the path that Kirk Pendergrass led them. But that's their choice, because that's the kind of people that Kirk Pendergrass directs this advice to. The gullible, the people that have a chip on their shoulder because they have gotten themselves into some kind of illegal mess, and someone like Kirk Pendergrass comes along, sells them a bill of goods, and they take it, only to get burned, and burned badly. It's already happened in a couple cases, and it's going to happen to Field McConnell. Field McConnell is in the position he is now because he listened to people that gave him bad advice. On the top of that list is Timothy Charles Homestead. He somehow got it into Field McConnell's head that an attorney from the state of Florida was involved in some pretty nasty stuff. And, of course, Timothy Homestead has been spewing this nonsense for a decade. And he embellishes his little fish story with different elements to go along with whatever's going along in the national news to fit his narrative. This Ukrainian nonsense is part of it. But rather than go into specifics, let me just stick with generalities here. You know, the short answer is that Timothy Holseth got it into Phil McConnell's head that he needs to attack this attorney. And Phil McConnell is only too eager to do it. Because Phil McConnell has been into this conspiracy theory nonsense ever since 9/11. It's what got him no longer a pilot and got him into some of the financial situations he's in now. And Phil McConnell is one of these people where he does things wrong and he makes mistakes and he doesn't learn from any of it. He just keeps making the same mistakes and doing the same stupid things over and over and over again. Now, when he started making these accusations and threats against this particular attorney, the attorney had had enough of this, and she did the same thing to Phil McConnell she did to Timothy Holseth. She got a court order to tell him to stop doing it. Stop making the death threats. Stop harassing this woman. And leave her alone. And Phil McConnell's not capable of doing that. He even attacks his own sister. Can't leave your own family members out of this tirade. You got to get them involved. She's a woman. So we got to go after the woman. And so that's what he does. And Phil McConnell was given ample warning weeks before he got arrested. He was given a chance to say, hey, I'm not committing any crime here. This is First Amendment, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Get on an airplane, fly to Florida. You're 69 years old at the time. You can get cheap plane ride to Fort Lauderdale and back. You know, I'm sure that the funds for the Children's Crusade would cover your expenses. You know, for $500 or $600, you get down to Florida, make your case. Maybe they'll throw the thing out, fly back home, and recoup your losses several times over. Because if you had gone down to Florida and argued this case and got the protection order thrown out, your statue would have gone into orbit and you probably would have gotten a mountain of donations to your cause. But instead, Bill McConnell chose the coward's way out. He kept up with the threats, calls for death, calls for execution, calls for imprisonment, all this stuff, making these false accusations, and he got his ass arrested. When he bragged that it wasn't going to happen, he was going to park his hearse and his farm tractor with the attachment on it across the road so they couldn't come and arrest him. So that threat went out the window. He caved. And he whined about there being several police cars and a show of force and all this. And Phil McConnell seems to forget that he made threats on the air. That he had a gun, and if someone came to the door without a warrant, he's going to shoot them. You know, and a deputy that listens to this stuff on the internet about how Phil McConnell brags about having all these guns and shit, they're not going to walk in there and say, hey, you want to go for a ride with us? They're going to engage in worst case scenario thinking, and they're going to be armed to the teeth. And the guy's a Marine. He should understand how these things work. If you're going up against an opposing force, you prepare for the worst case. You just don't walk into an ambush with a white flag in your hand. You prepare for it. And that's what these sheriff's deputies did. So that argument goes out the window. And then he decides to take the boneheaded move of fighting extradition. Now, Phil McConnell had simply said, all right, let me go to Florida, let me get this thing resolved. He would have gotten down to Florida. They would have had the trial by now. It would have been adjudicated. And more than likely, he would have gotten a warning, maybe a short sentence. And he could have served his time, been back in Wisconsin, a fairly short period of time. But no, Bill McConnell decided he was going to fight. He's going to stay in Wisconsin, and he ain't going to Florida. He said, I'm not going to Florida. I'm going to stay right here. Well, Phil McConnell's been in jail for 30 days. And Phil McConnell is going to be in jail more than likely another 30 days. Now, they haven't scheduled the next hearing date yet, and how long of an extension the state of Florida is going to have. Phil McConnell seems to think it's going to be 2 weeks. But as someone that follows court cases all the time, and of late I've been spending a lot of time watching disputed extradition hearings, Phil McConnell's looking at 30 days more in jail, starting yesterday. Because these things are done in 30-day increments. Because there's a lot of things that need to be done. And Phil McConnell's case is not the only case on the books in the state of Florida or in the state of Wisconsin. You have a first come, first serve scenario here. There's other people that have cases in court that are due before Phil McConnell's. So he basically has to get in line behind all these other cases. And for this reason, 2 weeks is likely not enough. A more likely scenario is 30 days at best. Most of these extradition hearings take place in 30-day increments. Now, what's probably going to happen is Phil McConnell is going to be told that, okay, the next opportunity that you have to appear in court is going to be 30 days from now. And then in 30 days, state of Florida and Phil McConnell are going to have a bitch fest to figure out which one's going to win this argument. And when the state of Florida wins the argument, he may or may not be going to Florida at that time. Now, if he comes up with a strategy, or somebody comes up with a strategy where it's necessary for Phil to be in jail another 30 days, then that will happen. But it is more than likely, as I've stated time and again, that Bill McConnell will probably be in the state of Florida in time for Valentine's Day. So he can send his wife a Valentine from Florida, if they do that sort of thing. So, Phil's got a lot of reality to face here. Now, this isn't conspiracy city here where you can argue these weird legal theories. This is a system we have on the books right now. This big revolution in the legal community that Kirk Pendergrass and Chris Hallett have advocated hasn't happened yet. Probably will never happen, even if Trump remains president. Instead, Phil McConnell's going to come to Florida for an extended vacation. And it's going to be a long one. Because what's going to happen, because of all the turmoil that Phil McConnell has put his victim through, she is going to likely advocate that he be convicted on all 3 charges. And if he is convicted on all 3 charges, that Phil McConnell be remanded to serve 3 concurrent terms in jail, in state prison. Now this is important because if Phil McConnell had decided, number one, not to fight extradition, and number two, to plead guilty to the charges, in other words, to a plea bargain, Phil McConnell probably could have come to Florida, gotten a minimum sentence on the charges, served all the charges concurrently, may even have gotten probation or parole, one or the other, and serve a relatively short sentence and be back home in Wisconsin in time for the 4th of July or even Memorial Day. But no. Bill McConnell listened to bad advice from Kirk Pendergrass and Chris Hallett, and is now stuck in a county jail in the dead of winter. Gonna miss Christmas and New Year's with the family. Probably gonna miss Easter, Memorial Day, even the 4th of July. By the time all is said and done, he's gonna miss a lot of holidays. He may even wind up missing a second Christmas and New Year's before all is said and done. Because what's going to happen is he may wind up serving his sentences concurrently at the maximum terms prescribed by law. Now, it's an educated guess that each term of felony stalking carries a 2-year sentence. So, we're looking at a total of 6 years. And since it's now more likely than ever that it's going to be consecutive sentences, Bill McConnell faces up to 6 years in prison with no gain time. Why no gain time? For time served? Because he served that time in an out-of-state jail. He didn't serve time in Florida, so all that may not count. So you add 6 years to the amount of time it's going to take Phil McConnell to be sentenced. You're looking at you're looking at 6.5 years in prison that Phil McConnell would have spent. Now, at some point, all this bravado that Phil McConnell has shown towards his listeners and viewers on the internet, it's going to start to fade. Because each tick of the clock, each minute of the day, each day of the week, each week of the month, each month of the year that goes by, Phil McConnell's going to realize that he's in this for the long haul. This isn't something that he's going to have to suffer through for a short period of time. He's going to be out thumping his chest saying he beat the system. He's going to spend years in prison as a defeated man. He's going to be someone that's going to serve prison time and come out as somebody that was proven to be completely wrong, and someone that is going to be paying the price for that mistake. And through all this, Timothy Charles Holmseth sits in the lounger chair, playing on his computer, watching the 65-inch TV, eating free food, staying in a nice big house in front of a cozy fireplace. And it's going to be Timothy Holmseth that's going to be the winner here. For he is, once again, shoved his troubles off onto somebody else. And we all have to sit back and wonder Who's going to be the next one to be thrown under Timothy Holmes's bus? Who's the next one that's going to be going to jail? Probably Kirk Pendergrass, probably Chris Hallett, and probably the person who has Timothy Charles Holmseth in their basement. And I will explain why when I finally get around to doing this segment called Eye in the Sky. It's going to be a real eye-opener. So until that time, this is William K. Murtaugh, Mark Witness 1. Have a good one.